he'll be down. We're trying to run the offense yesterday. The defense has no idea. When that guy goes out the back, it's just like, we weren't hitting that guy. The grip would back out. It's like, we only hit him a couple times, but we should every time. We should. Tough to defend the guy who's making that down. Yeah. Because he can rip it. But he can also lean in. Go. All right, take your seats, please. Let's get started. All right. Welcome back. Start of spring sports today. Oh, yeah. All right. We got any faculty announcements to start? No? Oh, this one.
Thanks. I need to see Owen Dunn, Hudson Carroll, and Mace Pia out back after Sunday.
Any others? All right, students. Yeah.
So it's academic absolutely destroyed model event last we're challenging to use this out this time and C208. Be there, good period. Seniors, who's been here for 12 years, 13 years, who's been out before, I sent out an email, we're going to be taking pictures today, it's actually tomorrow. First half after Friday. I'll send out an email with what time.
Cool. Is that Al?
Everyone remembers to pre-order Chick-fil-A, check your email.
Anybody else? Advisory lunch for 9th and 10th graders today. So keep that in mind. I'll announce that at the end too. And then, all right. Mr. Fitzgibbon is not here, but he wanted to make this announcement. So the blood drive is this Friday. There hasn't been a ton of sign-ups, but if you're willing to give blood on Friday, go ahead and sign up ahead of time at redcrossblood.org. Just search Gilman and it should pop up. And remember that those who donate will enter in a raffle for a 10x10 Chipotle gift card and going to lunch first. 1st for the week. So if you're interested in doing that, please go ahead and sign up on Friday, or before Friday. All right. Yes.
The link to that is on the morning memo as well.
On the morning memo. All right. Anything else, Mr. Kingsley?
Can you guys hear me? Perfect. Okay. Dear Gilman boys, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to our writer at work. The groovy, the like totally rad, the on fleek, the lit, the capital G-O-A-T, GOAT. My fam, the woke wizard of words, the spicy boy who keeps it low-key, high-key, and Gucci. Bruh. Edgar Coons. Edgar is one of the most famous and accomplished young poets in the country, by far. Most recently, he balled out by winning one of the top cash money prizes in our field, given to him by the National Endowment of the Arts, which is a huge deal. Although I heard he spent all the money on crypto, you'll have to ask him during the Q&A. Also, Edgar is the proud recipient of what is often considered the top award for young writers, the Stegner Fellowship through Stanford University. Edgar is currently a visiting professor at Goucher College, and we are very, very lucky to have him here with us today. Please welcome Edgar Coons.
Wow. That's the best intro I'm going to have in the rest of my days, I'm sure of that. Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here. Baltimore is one of my home places, so I'm getting settled back in the city and feeling really good about it. I've got a book that's coming out next spring. I have it in front of me, more or less, and this is going to be one of the first times I read from all the collection, or all the poems in the collection at once. I'm going to read 6 poems. I think it's important when you're at a poetry reading to know how many poems you're going to have to listen to, and in this case, it is 6. I'm going to start with the first poem in the book. Do any of y'all remember Hurricane Sandy? It's that hurricane that flooded all the subway tunnels in New York. It ripped up the New Jersey coastline. Yeah, so when that hurricane was happening, I was working on a farm in upstate Maryland on the Pennsylvania border, and I had also found out that my father, who is an addict, was living in a van. And so this is concerning all of that. It's called After the Hurricane. 300 miles north, my father beds down in a van by the Connecticut River. Snow tires rim deep in the silt. He has a wool horse blanket tacked inside the windshield. A pair of extra pants bunched into a pillow. He has a paper bag of partially smoked butts, a paw sox cap, a Zippo. He has state-sponsored cell phone minutes and a camo jacket hung on the side view to dry. He can see the Costco parking lot through the trees, swelling and emptying out. He wants to fix things with his wife. He wants a couch to crash on. He wants a drink. He wants sex. He has a few cans of kidney beans and a tin of ShopRite tuna. Wrinkled plastic piss bottles line the dash. Sometimes he walks out to the river and lets the wind sift his lank and matted hair. Sometimes he peels his socks and stands in the murky current and thinks about his wife. The birthmark on her neck, her one toe longer than the others, her freckled hands. He tries to hold her hands in his mind. He tries to remember the birth years of his sons. He tries to make sense of the papers he signed, the icy water wetting the hem of his pants, the river stones sharp underfoot, the wind. I hold him like this in my mind all afternoon. Any fans of professional wrestling here? Does anyone watch that anymore? Yeah, a couple folks? So when I was growing up, professional wrestling was a huge thing. It's these huge dudes dressed in spandex pretending to hurt each other when in fact it's all fake, right? It's all staged. But at the time, we did not know that. We thought it was real, and we loved it. And so there was a time in my life when I would get together with my friends, and we would do those moves for real to each other. And we got really hurt, as you might imagine. So this poem was about that. It's also the title poem for the book, and it's called Tap Out. We were vicious. Swollen cheekbones, bruised jaws, forearms chafed raw and weeping, the Boston crab, the Texas cloverleaf, the cross-faced chicken wing. One time, Aunt wrenched my shoulder so hard I couldn't lift my arm for a week. Another time, Mike's brother Daryl tried a front flip slam off the back steps, landed face first in the dirt, wrist bone shot clear through the skin and gleaming. Mike's dad worked second shift at Pratt, so if we were loud, he'd holler out the bedroom window, but there was nothing he could do to punish us we weren't already doing to each other, and we knew it. Like that time, Daryl showed us his pistol, a .22 he'd lifted from a friend's house. We passed it around, weighing it in our palms. It was heavier than it looked, but it felt good. He put the barrel in his mouth, and when we jumped up, he laughed and laughed. Priceless, he said, red-faced and gasping. You pussies almost wet your pants. We learned new moves, new ways to shock the body into miracles of pain, the figure forelock, the vice grip, every muscle trembling, the tarantula, the camel clutch, mouth pressed against their ear, hissing, tap out, dickhead, you're mine, you're not getting out of this, tap out and it'll stop, the sharpshooter, the hammerlock, that sour hot breath in your ear and knowing you won't give in, you won't give him the satisfaction, even when it hurts more than anything, more than your dad's belt blistering your backside, more than the night when Daryl put that gun in his mouth and the sound of it woke the whole block. So much you grit your teeth against the pain, sharp kneecap bearing down on your chest, elbow torqued past its limit, and you swear you could bust out of yourself and look down at your body, helpless and small and trembling. Press your mouth to your own ear and whisper, not you, not you. Whew! We are getting into it today. Thanks for sticking with me. Hey, that's nice. Yeah, thanks. So I fell in love with a woman in my early 20s who was Jewish and decided to make aliyah. Does anyone know what that is? Making aliyah. Aliyah in Hebrew means ascent, and it means to go back to Israel. And that was really hard, right? Because I live here, and she wanted to live an observant Jewish life in Israel. This poem is called When Charlie Pulls the Colorado Over. Colorado is a type of truck, and this is also when I was working on that farm upstate. When Charlie pulls the Colorado over and tells me to fuck off, says I can ride the bed with the bales or hitch back to Parkton with whoever will stop, but God help him, he don't give a damn if no one does. I pull the latch and stumble down onto the sun-scrubbed shoulder. The passenger door hangs open like a jaw, a hinge locked up and squealing in the Chesapeake wind that loosens hay strands fistfuls at a time from the twine-tied stacks, scatters them into traffic. I run my thumb along the mismatched quarter panel, thinking about the woman I had loved who called that morning to say she was marrying a fighter pilot, settling down outside Jerusalem. That she'd learned to say his ways are ways of pleasantness. And she's chosen to cover her hair and the freckled skin of her arms. Halfway between Hunt Valley and Hackensack, the Econolod sign pulsing behind the window, the sounds we make mixing with the branches lashing the window, the rain, the big rigs on the interstate, the kind of love that makes you forget, she says, slipping from the sheets. And whatever seized her then, whatever swept her toward those distances, the Abrahamic plains, a language she'd never spoken but is learning now to speak, is what lifts me. One foot on the bumper, good arm levering my body into the bed. What sets me down among the wind-torn bales, pushes me upstate toward Moncton, Hereford, New Freedom, the drop-seed prairies, the runoff ponds and feed corn fields. What asked me to try and track one straw, to hold it with my eyes for more than a second, and fail, and choose another, and fail again. Charlie leaning on the horn as they vault into the wind. I think so. Shoot. How am I doing on time? Good? Cool. This poem's called Salvage. I realized in writing this book that I had written a lot of poems about men, because men have been a big problem in my life, and becoming a man was a really difficult thing to learn how to do. I didn't have very many models. And so one of the final poems of the book is a poem about my mom. She's my stepmom, but she is the woman who saved me. So this poem's called Salvage. Still somewhere in me the summer spent driving steel into the wet earth, heft and swing of the mattock, my blistered hands, black flies rising like steam. The tables I served, the law firms I hustled from one zip line to another, classroom where I taught economics to the medicated kids of bus drivers and stevedores, swept clean boulevards of the city that paid me to snap a picture of every downtown business, jot the names and hours in a spiral-bound book. Somewhere in me, the failed industrial towns of New England, with their posh English names, Weymouth, Bridgeport, Lowell, Worcester, their dead cars, their factories and silk mills converted and upsold to commuters. Somewhere, the third floor walk-up we lived in longest. Linoleum and single pane. Plastic paneling painted to look like real wood, and my stepmother, my real mom, bending over the glossy stack of Star Market mailers, hands thin, approximate bright scars on the backs of her wrists where the surgeries didn't take. And me, problem kid, with a mushroom cut and his shirt tucked into his sweats, clipping the dollar-offs, the half-offs, the buy-one, get-ones, the buy-one, get-twos, the store-issued doublers, the two of us shoulder to shoulder on the kitchen floor, and the afternoon stretching on into no kind of heaven I could have understood then. Of peeling linoleum and the drone of interstate traffic. Of WIC checks, name-brand knockoffs, the gray stamps card made to pass as a regular visa, where we are allowed to know exactly what we can have and keep and what it will cost. This will be my last poem. It's about Bitcoin. Everyone know what Bitcoin is? Yeah. It's also, so the book charts a sort of east to west geographical trajectory, which is true of my life. And when I showed up in California, people could not stop talking about cryptocurrency, and it turns out, you know, it's sweeping the nation. This poem's called Interim, and it's about a weird time in my life where I had broken off a relationship. I was sleeping on a friend's porch, and that friend happened to be someone who was deep into the Bitcoin world. In fact, he was just on the cover of Forbes magazine. Interim, and this will be my last poem. Thanks for bearing with me. Interim. On the glassed-in back porch of a friend's house on Folsom, I slept 3 weeks on a heap of patterned wool blankets, a large Ziploc of granola, and a jar of pistachios on the sill. I woke to bus traffic in the floorboards and sun on my face, drank thin coffee, and scoured the listings for a studio someplace more possible. Each day, nothing. And each day I paced the bright, narrow side streets with my friend, who was taking time off and who was an expert in digital currencies. I'd tell him about the collapse of my marriage, and he'd tell me about the distant servers that mine electronic coins by solving complex equations, the specialized equipment required for this kind of work. I would ask him basic questions, and he would answer patiently. The coins are encrypted code. The code is the currency. Value is determined by speculation. Those days, every detail had the glimmer of potential cruelty. Hot pink curtain caught in a shut window. Drain pipe signed King Baby in whiteout pen. Paper bag of potatoes rotting in the trunk of the car I borrowed to retrieve a crate of books from storage. I called a man about a place above a Thai restaurant and lied about how much I make in a year. He was from Pittsburgh. We talked about rain. He said he'd call later to let me know if I got it. On another walk, I asked my friend more questions. Will it replace cash? Yeah. Is it untraceable? Yeah. Well, what happens when they run out of equations? A bus hummed past, skimming the lowest branches of the ficus tree, giving us shade. It's not like that, he said. It could go on forever. Thanks, y'all.
We have a few minutes for Q&A. If you have any questions for Edgar,
Don't be shy.
you can just stand up and shout if you have any questions.
Ask whatever you want. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Max Cortezi. I'm a junior.
Hey, Matt.
What was your process in writing it?
Yeah, shoot. Well, it's kind of scattered, you know. I would say the earlier poems are predominantly written when I was in grad school. I lived in Nashville for 3 years, went to Vanderbilt University. And then a lot of the later poems take place in California, and that just happened to be the trajectory of the book, too, you know. So they sort of naturally proceeded from there. Does that answer your question? Yeah, okay, cool. Yes? Cool. I'm 29 years old. Yeah. Yeah. It's great. Yeah, 29. Yes. Hey. Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, I went to community college. When I was in high school, I didn't know if I was going to go to college. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And so I went to community college and took a class kind of on a whim. It sounded like an easy A, right? It sounded like something that maybe was interesting to try to do, but also it wouldn't hurt my GPA. So I took it, you know, frankly, and it changed my whole life. You know, I was introduced to poets I was introduced to poetry. You know, I had never really even encountered it before. Yeah, I went to the type of public school where that wasn't a thing that, you know, that was taught. And then I transferred to Goucher College, so I'm an alum of that school. That's why they're having me back to teach. And I remember being in the old Julia Rogers library and pulling this book off the shelf by Claudia Emerson. If you guys were looking for a recommendation, Claudia Emerson's book, Late Wife, is incredible. It deals with some pretty dark material, you know. She got divorced from her husband, and then her husband died, and then she remarried, and it seemed to be a book that was dealing with the kind of material I didn't know that you could handle in poetry. You know, it was a book of first permission. As someone who's interested in writing about my life and sort of the things that I have lived through, it was sort of a go and do this kind of book.
Maybe like one more, if anyone has any.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, yeah, I paid my rent. I live in Oakland, California. It's very expensive. But I did buy some cryptocurrency, and I'm pretty happy that I did that. It's doing well. I mean, there's a big crash, but now it's doing well. But yeah, on really unglamorous stuff like groceries. And, yeah. Believe it or not, poets don't make a lot of money. So that was a huge gift from the National Endowment for the Arts. It was really cool, unexpected. Yeah, cool. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all.